me, we should all turn our cameras off until it's our turn to speak. And Angelica, as soon as it says 9:30, I say go ahead and start the meetings, especially as we have a tight agenda.
Right, and it is 9:30, so I think this is the time to begin. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Well, welcome and good morning, everybody, to the July 15th, 2020 Complete Count Committee Stakeholder Working Group meeting. I'm sorry, this is the way it has to be, but I'm excited to see a few faces out there. Hopefully everybody is staying safe and staying well. I know that we've all been really busy, so I think we should just get started, and I'd love to hear everything that's going on out there. So before we jump into the meeting, I will ask our clerk to confirm that we do have a quorum today. Blake, please.
Hi, Chair Davis. Yeah, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. So since this meeting is being conducted virtually, I'd like to review the process for both members and public comments. The primary members will be using their cameras, and we will take live public comments. Members are asked to turn on their cameras when they have a comment or question, and then I will then recognize you. For everyone else, please raise your hand and you will be unmuted so you could speak. Darlene, can you provide a quick overview on how the public comments will work for us?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to. As noted on the cover page of today's meeting agenda, in addition to emailing comments, the public may also provide live comments during today's meeting. And in order to provide live comments, you need to first register for the GoToMeeting webinar on the link that's provided on the cover page of the agenda, and then join the meeting when you get the email confirmation by clicking on the Join Webinar link. When public comments are called for on an item, then you click on the raised hand icon in the GoToWebinar control panel. That should be on the top right of your screen. And then the chair can call on you by name, and it'll be the name that you used when you registered with the GoToWebinar. And you can provide your comments for the allotted time. You do not need to worry about muting your microphone. The organizers will unmute you when you're called on, and then they'll mute you again when you're finished. And the instructions for providing live comments are also at the bottom of the cover page of today's meeting agenda, which you can access from the SANDAG homepage, which is www.sandag.org. And all the comments, whether they're emailed or live, will be made part of today's meeting record. Okay, there you go.
Perfect, thank you. So another thing to mention about public comment is that we do need to limit it to 1 minute. As Arlene mentioned, we do have a pretty full agenda, and we need to finish on time. So if that sounds good to everybody, I think we can move over to our first item. Our first item for approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any public comments on this item from the public? Okay, seeing none, no raised hands. Any comments from our members? Okay, I don't see any, and I will ask the support of Darlene. If I miss hands, Darlene, if I could ask for you to assist me and let me know if I've missed anybody. May I have a motion to?
Absolutely. The one thing I forgot to mention, I think, is for the members to do their comments, you'll want to activate your camera, and then the chair will know to call on you. So sorry about that. So okay. If you make a motion or anytime a member wants to speak, you need to activate your camera.
Perfect. So I'm going back and forth, and I just want to make sure that I don't miss anybody. So on that note, may I have a motion to approve the minutes? Remember to please unmute yourself to respond.
Hi, I make a motion to approve the February 19th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Do I have a second? Please unmute yourself.
I will second.
Perfect. So a motion by Carrie and seconded by Denise. Thank you, ladies. Okay, I'll call on the clerk for a roll call, please. Blake?
Sure. We will now take a roll call vote. Voting members, please remember to unmute your mics. Representing South County, Chair Angelica Davis, what is your vote?
Aye.
Okay. Representing East County, Lynn Dudman, what is your vote?
Aye.
Representing North County Coastal, Carrie Jezebek, what is your vote?
Aye.
Representing North County Inland, Dulce Salazar, what is your vote?
Aye.
Representing the City of San Diego, Matt Yagagan, what is your vote?
Aye.
Representing the County of San Diego, Denise Becerra, what is your vote?
Aye.
All voting members have approved the minutes.
Thank you, Blake. Moving on to public comments and member comments, I'll ask members of the public who wish to offer public comment not related to a matter on today's agenda to please raise your hand at this time so we can call on you. I don't see any. Darlene, if I've missed any, please let me know. I just want to be very cautious.
Yeah, I don't see any either.
Okay. Okay, next, do we have any comments from our members? Okay. Great, now we can move on to the first item.
Sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. It's Megan Thomas at San Diego Grantmakers representing philanthropy. Good to see everybody. Just want to update that we've extended the terms of all of the philanthropic grants to our community partners to ensure that they have adequate time and resources due to the extenuating circumstances right now and longer time frame for outreach activities.
Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 3 under reports, we have an update from the Census Bureau by Roberto Garcia. Roberto, are you with us today?
Yes, good morning. I hope everyone is doing well.
The floor is all yours, Roberto.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited to see partners, collaborators moving forward. I'm happy to report that while the U.S. Census Bureau has been doing a lot of activities, we've also recognized that a lot of our partners, a lot of, you yourself have been really active. I know I've seen Angelica Davis on probably more than one interview, probably this week. I've seen Dulce, definitely other team members. And I just want to say thank you for all your support. So I have a brief update. Given the pandemic, operations have shifted. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware of those changes. And I just want to reiterate that although the census is planned nationally, it does happen locally. And we can't do this work without yourself. As of today, we are in the operation of counting everyone, and we are roughly 108 days before the final official day ending the census on Saturday, October 1st. But before that happens, next slide, please. We are doing a few activities to remind the public. One of those activities is a new opportunity. A lot of individuals will be receiving a mailer to PO boxes. This was not officially in the timeline, but now it is something that the U.S. Census Bureau has completed. Here in the next 2 slides, you'll be able to see an example of what it looks like, very straightforward. Essentially, it's an invitation, right, for everyone to participate. So if you can please show the next slide, please, or the next 2. So this is the first side of the postcard, and then on the second slide, you'll be able to see the copy. Very straightforward. Essentially, we're adding the online as well as the phone number for people to call us or to visit the website. And here, we just want to remind everyone that for those receiving the postcard invitation to please make sure that they respond with the physical location of where they live and not where they received mail. Next slide, please. So at the end of the month, there will be a lot of activities happening. Next slide, please. So we will be sending a final reminder. So we have already sent an invitation, a reminder invitation. We sent the paper form. We sent an additional reminder. So now we're sending another reminder to all non-responding households. This will happen at the end of the month. And then on the next slide, you can see what this looks like. Very straightforward. Again, the copy is addressed to anyone. You can see here that it's in Spanish and in English. Next slide, please. So locally in San Diego, we are promoting a local phone line. Given the pandemic, our national line has been a little slow, I guess, in taking phone calls. So locally here in San Diego, we are establishing 3 local lines that people can call in directly. These are San Diegans. These are Census Bureau employees that have been trained to how maintain your confidentiality. So this is the official line that we're promoting locally in San Diego. It is for San Diego, but if anyone outside of the county would like to call in, please feel free to share it with your constituents. As of this point, we're able to provide services in English, Spanish, and Tagalog. There is a short time delay, and it takes about 20 minutes to complete. Next slide, please. And last but not least, we are also in progress to send enumerators out into the field. They are scheduled to go out August 11th. And I just want to here emphasize that ideally we would like people to self-respond by themselves, given that an enumerator visit will have some limitations. We will only support roughly 2 languages when we can, English and Spanish. We will do 5 attempts, meaning that an enumerator will go to a house about 5 times, and this can all occur in one day. So if we do not find someone, we will most likely ask their neighbor in this process to take the survey with an enumerator. Roughly takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Given obviously that COVID cases continue to rise, we will continue to monitor this situation to make sure that we are ensuring the health and safety of employees and the public. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about what does the next 3-4 months look like, given that the pandemic has pushed our operations out. So here, if you want to go to the next slide, please. So some things that happened in June are the following. We completed the update leave operation. There are 17,100 households that were part of this process. This was completed on June 30th. So you will be able to see on the map, on the response map, increases in those areas that are in the update leave area. Also, we are working with group quarters, such as universities. We're working with the bases. We're starting to outreach now to some homeless service providers so that they can do an e-response. And an update on the tribal areas, we have completed about 15% of that work. Given that the pandemic caused the tribal areas to completely close off their
surveys and run with it. So just something that we want to brainstorm as a group. So there we go, we got a question.
There are those that need to mute their mics so that the presenter can be heard. Please mute your mic if you're not presenting.
I've sent her a message. I muted her for now.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So essentially, as I mentioned, a lot of things happened in June, and the last thing here that I wanted to update you on is that the tribal areas, we do have here a large concentration of them. We've only completed 15% of that workload, given that most, if not all, of the tribal areas are completely closed off to anyone due to the pandemic. Next slide, please. So this is where we are now. We are in July, and the U.S. Census Bureau is undertaking multiple activities. Mostly, we are doing car caravans. There is a full schedule. The first caravan that we did was in Vista in June. We also followed up with another car caravan on June 20th that went from City Heights to Chula Vista. Our partners did a car caravan on July 8th in National City. And then there are 3 future scheduled caravans. I can't forget here that there was a car caravan in Escondido this past Saturday. There's one scheduled for July 18 in Oceanside, one on the 25th for Vista, and then one on July 28th for Barrio Logan. So this is essentially what the U.S. Census Bureau will be doing for the next, or for this month, pretty much doing car caravans, continuing to outreach to our partners. And we are also promoting the Area Census Office questionnaire assistance. So essentially that's the phone number that I provided to you before. That's the 858-285-7513. And currently we would like anyone that is interested to schedule a time. If you like that number to be specific to your constituents, we're happy to designate a date and a time where we can set appointments, or even just the whole day for your organization to send referrals to the U.S. Census Bureau. Next slide, please. In August, that's the big month. So we're roughly less than 30 days when enumerators will go out. So enumerators will be trained to do in-person surveys. They will also be trained on health and safety protocols. And not only that, they will be provided with protective gear and equipment to make sure, again, they are protecting themselves, they're staying healthy, as well as those that we are serving. I also want to give you a quick update on the previous mobile operation. That will no longer happen, again, given that the pandemic has restricted us from being outside and being with groups of people. The quick update here is that the mobile operation has reduced funding. Initially, this operation had a $90 million budget, and it has now been decreased to about $20 million. Furthermore, our headquarters in Washington, D.C. is indicating that we can only work on the lowest 20% census tracts in the nation. So I can at any time provide you with those census tracts, but these are nothing new. They are the usual suspects where we have been working, areas of National City, areas of downtown San Diego, Barrio Logan, Vista, and then also a lot of the rural areas in our county, such as Julian area, Palma Valley, Potrero, in some of those areas that are a little bit more rural. Next slide, please. So in September, we are scheduled to do the survey-based enumeration. Basically, this is the homeless count. It is scheduled to happen between September 22nd to September 24th. We are already starting this work. We are contacting police departments. They essentially are at the front lines dealing with this population. So they are definitely an organization that we continue to talk to make sure that we know what are those hot spots where people may be at, whether shelters, soup kitchens, or even under bridges, they are definitely providing us with assistance with that. We're also outreaching to local organizations. You know, I might say those are the traditional ones like the Alpha Project, Trader, the Red Cross, senior centers, and others, to make sure again that we are servicing and counting people that are getting services right there on those days. Next slide, please. And lastly, October will be pretty much the last month that the census will be active. All, if not most of my team members and my team will be no longer working with the U.S. Census Bureau by then. Everyone is scheduled to finalize their contract on September 26th. So if anything, you know, you as committee members, you know, you as leaders of your city and your community, I think that this will be like the last big push that you can do. But I put here obviously a Halloween theme because Saturday, October 31st is the last day that people can take the census. And I put a little sad ghost there because those individuals that are not counted essentially will be a ghost, right? They will not be counted. They will not technically exist, and therefore they will not be counted on the census. So I'm almost done. Next slide, please. I just want to share some of the next steps. So the U.S. Census Bureau right now is working really, really hard. Our goal is to get as close as we can to 72% participation in the county. Currently, we are at 67.8, I believe I checked this morning. We will continue to do caravans, specifically in low response areas. We will continue to do virtual workshops and trainings wherever we can. Nationally, the media campaign will continue to September. So you will see more billboards, you will see more ads, you will see you know, more things on the radio. So that will continue up until September. And then lastly, we will continue to support a local San Diego line. We are expected to have 2 more coming online here in the next 2 weeks for a total of 3 local phone lines in San Diego that people can call anytime. And I think that's it. I think the last slide there is an image from one of our most recent caravans. We had about 25 people show up, and it was great. I felt like we had a good response from the community and where we were driving, very positive. Everyone had a really great experience. But with that said, I think I'm done. I just want to say thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it, and we will continue to be allies in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto, for that update. It's I think we were all asking the same questions as to how the timeline had changed, so it's very, very helpful for us. Oh, I did have a question, but actually what I'm going to do is ask if any members have any questions or comments for Roberto at this time. And if you do, please remember to turn on your camera.
I have a quick question. So with the enumerators being out in the field, I want to alert our law enforcement that they're going to be there. And I know the date is August 11th. Is it a good end date to tell our law enforcement staff that it would be October-ish that enumerators would be out there? Because what we're likely to get is citizens that are going to contact the city or law enforcement and want to know if this is legit, even though they're going to look legit. But there's a lot of scams out there, and we typically will get those types of calls, I think maybe in any community. And it's good for our law enforcement to know that they're out there so they'll have an answer for them. So I'm just wondering, is October a good month for the end of enumerators being out in the field? Thank you.
I appreciate your question, Lynn. If anyone calls someone visiting their house, obviously I think that we should tell them that they should take the census online. I think that's the first thing that we can do so that they can prevent those individuals from coming back. Second, about a month or 2 ago, we compiled a list with assistance from Darlan and other partners to make sure that we had all of the police departments in our list and updated contact information. So we have already sent them an initial communication indicating that this will start. And I think you said it very clearly, Lynn, that the operation will go from August 11th all the way up until Saturday, October 31st. So they could expect enumerators to be on the street during that time.
Thank you, Roberto. Any other comments or questions from any of the members? I did have a question for you, Roberto, actually more of an offer. When you are getting ready to do the outreach to the homeless, we did have some concerns a few months back when pre-COVID. If there's any way that we can assist you, a distribution list that could go out to all of the hot teams, that was my concern, that we didn't want any of the enumerators out there by themselves. We, as far as the South region, we have resumed our homeless outreach days, so it would be really helpful to coordinate with that. And I would be happy, as far as the Chula Vista is concerned, and I'm sure the other cities feel the same way, to be able to coordinate and connect you with those homeless outreach teams, to have somebody from your team go along with them, and that way there's safety protocols and everybody's safe. And we've already established a rapport with a lot of the homeless out there, so I think it would be really beneficial. So if you need any help with that, just let me know.
Thank you, Angelica. I will have to get back to you on that. I would check with my local office. As far as I understand, no other professional or any other individual can go along with enumerators, given that the information is private. Okay. But I will get back to you and make sure that I clarify that. But if anything, we will work with those teams to make sure that we know where those hotspots are, so that we are there in counting those individuals. Okay,
thank you. No other member comments or questions? We'll move along to public comments. Please raise your hand at this time if you have any comments. If not, we'll move on to the next item. Okay, seeing no hands, we'll move on to item number 4. We have an update from the California Complete Count by Connie Hernandez. Connie, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning to everyone. So great for us to get together, regardless of the mode, just to be able to speak to one another. Thank you so much for having me this morning. As all of you may remember, my name is Connie Hernandez. I'm the Regional Program Manager for Region 10. Region 10 comprises San Diego and Imperial counties. Next slide, please. As you all are probably well aware of our Census Week of Action that took place last week. And also, excuse me, I can't share this right now. I'm sorry I can't share it. I'm barely on the call. I've had some issues with my technical issues this week. Anyway, I'd like to move on. The slide you're looking at right now recaps our Census Week of Action, and I'm sure that Michelle will go into more detail in terms of any feedback that we've received from that. But as you can see from this slide, we talk about our different themes throughout the week. The first one, as you can see there, is our region counts, our communities count, our voices count, our future counts, and get out the count. So as those applied to those directly applied to various activities that took place throughout the day. We can go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. We had a few articles the beginning of July, as you can see here. This one highlighting over to the left was a very informative article in the San Diego News, highlighting the Census Week of Action in the region. Also, the article highlights more than 150 nonprofits and municipalities that make up the Count Me 2020 coalition, led by our ACBO United Way of San Diego, activating a week of action to encourage individuals to respond to the census who live and work in neighborhoods that currently have a low census response rate. The article to the right appeared on the front page of the UT's local news, which they interviewed Dr. Nunez from North County, Joanne Fields from the API Initiative, and myself to give a quick overview in terms of the outreach that's being conducted given the challenges we've had with COVID-19. We can move on to the next slide, please. We would just like to be able to showcase new resources that are available on the Census Partner Portal. We have new voter guides in English and Spanish. These are available in color and in black and white. To request access, please send an email to our communications team. Also, please visit the new statewide partner webpage. The webpage has been updated with all our statewide partners. Some of them are featured on this slide. Visit this one-stop page to review all of the partners who may be working in your area. Now more than ever, we want to encourage the partnership so that we can work together to achieve a complete count. Next slide, please. We'd like to review a couple of key dates. Region 10 Count Me 2020 Week of Action, as I've just stated, occurred July 6th through the 10th. California Census Week of Action is going to be July 27th to August 7th. Census Week of Action, that is a U.S. Census Bureau Day of Action, as Roberto mentioned, July 28th. Faithful Census Week of Action, that coincided with our Count Me 2020 Census Week of Action, and also the United States Census Bureau postcards. You have a lot of details on that from Roberto's presentation. We can go on to the next slide, please. Again, we'd like to go over some things in response to the United States Census Bureau Surge Weeks happening the week of July 27th. We're looking to encourage other Census Week of Action 2.0, as we like to call it, and expanding it to a 2-week period. We won't have, as you all know, any live events, but our communications team will be focusing on amplifying events on the ground. Obviously, the focus being respond today, enumerators are coming soon. The obvious benefits of achieving a complete count by inspiring communities, uplifting the work, and just to move forward with our all the virtual work that we can do. The media plays a large part in that as well. If we can move on to the next slide, please. This is point 2.0. To support your work on the ground, we would love to get your information by Friday, 7/17, and that is the big message for this slide. Any week of action activities, please get that information to me or Michelle or Darlene, who will forward it to me. And whether we have definitive information or not, because the sooner we get the information, the more we are able to support the events. And by saying we, I mean our comms team that work directly with Art Marketing and Skatina Daniels in terms of the earned media that we're working on. So please, any events that you have, please provide that information. Next slide, please. Yeah, the Census Office through Mercury hired a social quest to conduct a mid-campaign study of awareness and attitudes of California's 15 hard-to-count populations, and they're listed there on the slide. In the interest of time, and there's so much to this study that they conducted. I think it's like a 43-page PowerPoint. I just wanted to present a really high-level information in terms of the results of that. So from mid-April to the end of May, in person, Social Quest looked at these HTC populations, surveyed and studied their attitude and awareness of census messaging and awareness. So this study helped determine how the campaign is resonating with each hard-to-count community, and to also identify what elements of the campaign mostly influenced completion of the census form. So we have one more slide on this. If we can see that part of the analysis, and again, these are just excerpts from the overall executive summary, which actually is driving the completion of the census, are these two drivers. They're media and information sources, as well as messages used in campaign creatives. So I share this particular highlight with you to plan the type of messaging and the type of media that resonates with the hardest to count population. So more information, more detailed information is available, but as I said, because of the, in the interest of time, it's very important for us to just move forward. We have the media and information sources here and the messages. And just remember, everyone counts in the census. That seems to be resonating. Census benefits our families and communities, and census form has 9 very easy questions. We can move on to the next slide, please. We have now the QACs and QAKs in a box available for partners. You can send me an email to order directly or order directly from outreach@censusca.gov. All they need is a yes, I want the information, and address where we could send that. Unfortunately, we don't have these in Spanish. They're only in English. And even though there are no plans to open up a QAC or QAK, we want to be prepared. We already have these materials. We want to get them out in the community. Many people have become very creative in terms of the food distribution sites, the book distribution sites, diaper distribution sites, anything, or the most recently or that's coming up is the cart seats that were being provided as well. So sometimes people set up a table on the side where this information is visible. So just keep that in mind, that we'd like for you all to be prepared. And if you need those, please get in touch with me. Thank you. As we can move on to the next slide, please. I won't go into detail about this, as Roberto has already reported on this in terms of the caravans. And yes, it seems to be a wonderful option for us at this time. And I think we all really need to just take a step back and consider where we were just a year ago in terms of planning and what our outreach efforts are going to be. And when COVID walked in our door and the social movements, social justice movements, I mean, we've all had to pivot. And I think we all should be very proud of the work that's being conducted in Region 10. Despite everything that has been ongoing, we have still found a way to outreach and get that information out to our communities. Next slide, please. We have partner learning opportunities with our peer learning hour. We've been conducting these for the past 2 months. Every Friday from 1:30 to 2:30, we have various subjects. Last week we had a faith-based presentation. The week before, LGBTQ. We've had various organizations. And I think especially now, as we're struggling to find ways to get the word out to our hardest to count communities, it's important to really have a keen understanding in terms of what other groups are doing throughout the state. Thank you. If we can go on to the next slide, please. Most of you know about California Connected, at the state's effort to share the California Connected public awareness campaign through the California Department of Public Health. The campaign provides the public with information about the contract tracing program, free and confidential COVID-19 testing and resources. So all the information is there, and I'm assuming that this presentation will be shared. You can copy and go to the links provided on here if you need additional information. We go to the next slide, please. The next couple of slides, we're just going to go through very quickly, again, in the interest of time, because they refer to, okay, what happened to the slides? Well, anyway, I just want you to know that the actions, your actions save lives. Is especially difficult to count the farm workers that are participating with us, especially in the Imperial County and North County here in San Diego. So as we move forward, can you hear me? Because I don't see anything on the screen.
We can hear you, Connie.
Oh, okay, I'll just go through it then. So as I said, please, the video disappeared, but this concerns rural communities, so please take a look at the information provided on the slides. Thank you so much for your time. I know there's a lot of information there, and as we move forward again, stay connected with us, keep in touch, and again, congratulations on all the great work that's being conducted out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. We certainly we appreciate all the information, and we certainly appreciate all of everybody's creativity as you described. So thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from any of our members? If you do, please turn on your camera. Okay, moving on. Do we have any comments or questions from the public? And if you do, please raise your hand. Okay, so seeing none, we can move on to our next item. We have a presentation from Dahlia Malmer. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Black American Political Association of California update. Dahlia, are you with us? Darlan, is there a way to check if she is present?
Oh, here we go. Hi. Hello.
Hi, sorry.
Okay. I was trying to make sure I was able to be heard.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I can go ahead and get started?
You are free to go.
All right, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name's Dahlia. I am with the BAPAC San Diego chapter, and I'm here just to go over just a few updates on what we've been doing in our neck of the woods. Next slide, please. Okay, so we started off with a census, a BAPAC census video, really focusing on the African American community. One of the primary goals that we have is to make that cultural relevant connection to those that we're trying to do outreach on, to make sure that they're understanding what the census is about, the importance of it, and really connecting with it. Next slide, please. Okay, the next couple of slides, I'll just be quickly outlining some of the highlights of things that we've done in partnership with other community organizations. As you can see on this slide, we have partnered with Pillars of the Community to do a Black Census Hub meeting. We've done virtual Census Day kickoff events, including with our own San Diego membership. Ellen Nash, who is the chair and president of BAPAC San Diego, we went to a census meeting in LA just to connect with other census officials, and in a way of understanding and also getting some best practices as to what they were doing in Los Angeles and etc. And also we went to the, Ellen Nash went to the City Hall and presented to the City Council, which actually led to a lot of awareness. We discovered at the City Council meeting that several council members weren't aware of the complexity of the census and the efforts that were going on, all the outreach efforts that had been started and were going on at that time. So that was very beneficial. Next slide, please. We also created a BAPAC San Diego Census Facebook page, so as an opportunity to keep our members and also the public and community members up to date as to what's going on in our outreach efforts. I participated in a census discussion at the Emoja Porch Talks, which is in Maricosta College. It's a program for African American students. They specifically do outreach, and so that was another avenue that we decided to connect with to make sure that the outreach on the census is being communicated. And then again, recently we held a outreach meeting with the City Council staff themselves. Because we're tracking on the maps and keeping mindful of the colors, right? The tans to the light blue, to the medium blue, to the dark blue. And we had identified some areas that needed some help. And so we reached out to the City Council staff and met with some of them to talk about how they could assist us in our own efforts. The next major collaboration coming up is with the Family Engagement Department. at the Harold Ballard Parent Center, and that focus is going to be on the schools in City Heights, Linda Vista, and Oak Park. This effort is really trying to target the families who have children, to identify that parents are making sure that they're filling out the census, being mindful of the fact that children are often undercounted, and making sure that, you know, we're getting closer to more blue, more darker blue in those areas. Next slide, please. This is just a quick summary of activities. I won't spend too much time on it, but these are the number of activities collectively, and the type of activities collectively, and the number of times that we have engaged in those activities. Next slide, please. The next couple slides will just be some visuals to show you things that we've been doing. As you can see, this was our April 1st Census Day kickoff, which was really a lot of fun. You know, we're sitting around talking, and we're trying to figure out, okay, this is when COVID hit, everyone's shutting down, and you know, we were trying to strategize, okay, how can we still do the outreach? And it was like, hello, we could just do it virtually. And so we came up with this concept, and seems to have kicked off in other organizations have picked up on this, which is fantastic, because I think part of the issue is that, you know, we're so used to being in person all the time that when COVID hit, it was people were froze for just a moment, but sounds like everyone across the board is doing really well. So really happy about that. And then, as you can see, we did a Census Power Hour kickoff with API, Joanne Fields, and that's been a great partnership since then. Next slide, please. Also on, there's two radio talk shows that I participated in, on the Gospel Radio, and also on the Courageous Conversations, to talk to just the public. We know this is going into the Black communities. These are very focused outreach efforts, and just continuing those conversations so that people are still understanding the importance of filling out the census. In fact, out of a lot of these efforts, we've had folks say to us, you know what, we didn't even realize it. And then some people actually filled out the census because after we did the outreach, they realized the importance of it. One of the things that we have done is actually live fill out your census with BayPac. So while we're talking about the census, people are actually, you know, breaking out with their cell phones and filling out the census. Next slide. Recently, we did a census happy hour in partnership with Everybody Line Dancing and API with Joanne Fields, and this was fun. We actually we've done this about 3 times. This is the most recent one. We actually implemented a Kahoot game. So as you can see, we've had some top 3 winners, and they received a census goodie bag. So that was a lot of fun. Next, please. Next slide, please. And I think that's pretty much it. I do want to give a little shout out to Ray Donegan. He's our census partner, and he's been great as just outreaching and partnering with us to make sure that when he's able to, he's available and providing census information, helping people fill out the census online. We've had those type of activities and things like that. So just want to make sure that on record that we want to show appreciation for all the work that he's done. Of course, Joanne Fields, I mean, she's fantastic. She's been doing so much, and we've really appreciated that partnership with her as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dahlia, and thank you for that update. It's really exciting to see how we've adapted in this environment and to see the great partnerships that are coming out of this. So I do appreciate hearing that, as I'm sure the rest of our members feel. And with that, I'll open it up to our members, see if they have any questions or comments for Dahlia. If you do, turn on your cameras, please. Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? If you do, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you very much, Dahlia. Thank you for being with us. Moving on to item number 6, we have Darlene providing update on an outreach summary, actually. Hello, Darlene.
Hello. It's great for us all to be together, even though it's only virtually. The first thing I want to say is to thank you. Thank everyone for not only doing the outreach, but reporting what you're doing. We wouldn't be able to know what's going on otherwise. So the summary I'm going to present now is based on the data reported through the end of June. All of the jurisdictions compile what they're doing and report it to me monthly. Then I load that into the statewide outreach and rapid deployment tool, SWORD, which the state mandates that we do as part of receiving the funding. Then I combine that with similar information that the Count Me 2020 Coalition also submits into SWORD, as well as the efforts of the Office of Education. So then what I'm going to show you is a complete picture of everything that's going on around the region. Next. So this slide is the first of two. The completed column shows all the activities that have been reported so far. And then the next column is the number of impressions that are estimated for each of those activities. An impression is every time a message is seen or heard. As you can see, this is just the first of two slides that shows how busy everybody is. Based on the data reported through the end of June, there have been almost 3,000 email communications sent, and flyer distributions have been reported 241 times. Of course, because of the pandemic, events have pivoted away from large in-person events and have included things like car parades, or as Roberto refers to them as car caravans. There have been some street cafes reported and other activities, everything that really maintains the social distance. Next. So here are the rest of the activities that have been reported through the end of June. There were over 5,600 completed and over 3.5 impressions, which is super important, even though those are just estimated, because what marketing research says is you need to hear a message 7 times for it to really resonate and provoke action. So we're doing well. Next. This map shows the alignment of the activities, those are the dots on the map, with the hard to count communities. So the darker shading are where there is a higher concentration of hard to count groups. Again, these are activities reported through the end of June, and the next two slides are going to zoom in a little bit more. Next. So this map zooms into the northern portion of the region, and you can see how the activities are concentrated where those hard to count darker areas are. Next. And then in the southern portion of a county, again, there is alignment with the hard to count communities. Next. Moving on to looking at impressions in more detail, this slide shows the estimates for each type of hard to count community. So these are, again, when a message has been seen or heard. They are estimates. This data is not mandated by the state. It's one of the optional fields that can be filled out. And when the estimates are made, there are varying levels of confidence, because sometimes it seems like who knows who we reached, right? But whenever people could estimate, they did. And I've tabulated here all the impressions, regardless of the level of confidence. Next. Looking at impressions another way, this table shows the estimates by language. So once again, they're just estimated, they're not mandatory, so we don't always know, but when people were able to estimate, this is how it looked with respect to the language of the impression. Next. Now, as you know from Roberto, the Census Bureau is the one that's responsible for collecting the data, and they report the response rates on a regular basis. I believe it's every weekday now. And this graph shows the rates by jurisdiction. The good news is, as Roberto mentioned, we're 0.2% away from the 2010 response rate. The 2010 self-response rate was 68%. We're at 67.8 now. And you can see every single jurisdiction is over 50%, and a large number of them are at the 2/3 mark. Next. So looking in more detail, this map shows the response rates. So those are the shaded areas. Darker purple shows a higher response rate, and the darker browns show the lowest response rates. And then the activities are in the dots on top of that. The rural areas that you see, a lot of which are in the tan colors, the update leave operation works there. They don't necessarily get it to a street address because they don't have a typical street address. Often they receive their mail by PO box. That process, because of the pandemic, was delayed until May 25th. But as Roberto mentioned, that work is all finished now. At the end of June, it finished. So we're anticipating that the response rates will rise in the coming days. Let's zoom in next. On the next slide, looking at the northern portion of the county, you can see how the activities are aligning with the response rates. And then next, the southern portion of the county. And additional details about the census tracts with these lowest response rates can be obtained by the California Complete Count 2020 Census Office. They have a tool on their website, and I am happy to provide any assistance in using that. Next. So given that the self-response rate is rapidly approaching its end, on August 11th, when the Census Bureau is sending out enumerators, the CalMe 2020 Coalition identified 23 tracts with the lowest response rates, as well as high, hard to count communities. So this slide and the next slide kind of tallies up those activities in those 23 tracts cumulatively. So you can see there's been over 1,100 email communications, and advertising, there's been 731 activities in that category reported. Next. So looking at all the activities in those 23 census tracts aggregated together, there have been over 3,500 activities, which is about 156 on average per tract. Next. So looking at the data a little differently, this slide is the first of 3 showing the number of activities reported in all those tracts, again, aggregated by the community-based organizations and the local jurisdictions. The first 2 slides are the CBOs, and then the third one has the jurisdictions and government entities. You'll notice there's an asterisk on one of the CBOs here, and that just indicates that it's not funded through the United Way, the administrative community-based organization, or SANDAG, but they report activities nonetheless, so we want to definitely tally those up. Just as a caveat, I really resisted tallying up the data in this way because these organizations operate all over the region, right? So just because they don't have any activities in these census tracts, it's only 23, right? It doesn't mean they're not doing anything. But I share it to kind of contribute to the conversation about how to really target these census tracts. Next. So this is the rest of the CBOs that are operating in the census tracts. There was also additional CBOs that aren't reporting any activities at all, which probably has to do with the communities they serve. But we might want to think about them as well if they could pivot to help focus in these areas, perhaps, I don't know. Next. And then these are the jurisdictions that have activities in the 23 tracts. You'll notice there's a large number of activities like by the County of San Diego and SANDAG, and those primarily involve e-blasts, emails, social media posts, so they aren't super targeted just to those tracts. They kind of cover the whole region, but many people in those tracts could receive those messages as well, so we didn't want to leave those out. Next, and this is my final slide on this topic, because those aggregate numbers, oops, I guess you guys don't get to see that. All right, this was a last minute addition, that's all right. I have detailed data for every census tract that shows the response rate for that tract, the name of the community, the number of CBOs operating in that tract, and then underneath every CBO, it shows the number of activities in that tract. And I've shared that information with Michelle. In fact, it's so hot off the press. I just shared it this morning. And she, I believe, is planning on posting that on the Count Me 2020 website and in her Google Docs, so that hopefully this information can be used in developing next steps for these areas. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for that, Darlene. Actually, I do have a question. So the data, which is fascinating, what is the date when we started collecting that data? Was that when we initiated the efforts from day one, essentially? That's just a summary of overall.
Right, it is the summary of overall. It can even include things like before January, right? So when people, even in the fall, or we did a big kickoff event April 1st of 2019, that's in there. So it's really everything that anybody has done related to promoting the 2020 census.
From day one, got it, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation. And on that note, do we have any comments or questions from any of our members? Please turn on your camera. No, okay. Do we have any questions or comments from members of the public? Please turn on your mic.
Actually, they have to raise their hands and I don't see any.
Sorry, raise your hand. I don't see anybody. I do see Claudia is unmuted. Did you
Chair Davis, I think Alan Kaplan has his hand raised.
Okay. The floor is yours. Would we be able to mute Dahlia's line if she's not speaking?
Sorry, thank you for unmuting me. I guess I just have a question and sort of more of a comment around what Darlene was saying. In some of the charts, it made it look like that there wasn't a lot going on in some of the main census tracts that the partners were working in. And I just want to kind of highlight some of the data collection that's been going on that kind of makes it seem a lot more like it. For instance, I think many of the groups report their office location for a lot of their activities rather than the activities in the census tracts themselves. So I do think that while the data is pretty comprehensive, I think it's important to keep that in mind, that the reporting that's required by the state does provide that kind of a wider scope. So some of the groups might be working in those census tracts, but in the report, you'll say, you know, Engage San Diego, 3909 Center Street, which is my address, and I might be working in a very different tract. So I just want to keep that in mind. And while those numbers may look low, the fact is that many of our partners are in fact working in those areas. But I really want to thank you for keeping this data comprehensive and presenting it well. Thank you.
That's a really good point, Alan. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Alan. Do we have any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none, Darlene, I think the floor is still yours. Actually, yes. Item number 7 is a non-response follow-up plan. Darlene.
Yes, thank you, Angelica. So the strategies, wait, hold on. I have to look at my notes a little bit. Okay, so as we have mentioned, August 11th starts the Census Bureau's following up process with people who have not self-responded. And now our outreach efforts need to pivot into what's called the non-response follow-up phase, encouraging completion of the form as well as cooperating with the census takers or the enumerators when they come to the door. The message is that it's not too late to complete the census online, by phone, or mail. And this presentation, I'm going to summarize what we submitted to the state as our non-response follow-up plan. Not only to let you know what we told the state, but also to give us time to pause and think about what's really realistic given our current circumstances. Next. So while outreach strategies have focused on communities at risk of being undercounted so far, the non-response follow-up phase kind of really hones in and wants to pinpoint the areas with the low response rates that are hard to count. And the activities shown on this slide and the 2 more that follow highlight those that are consistent with stay-at-home orders, especially given that the governor has rolled back some of our reopening that we were hoping wouldn't happen. Most of these activities have been underway in the self-response period, and they can continue now during the non-response follow-up. This slide shows examples of strategically placed signage like yard signs that you can get through the Count Me 20 Coalition, curbside pickup locations like food banks. There's some light pole sign examples here, and the car caravans. Next. Flyers like the one shown here on the left can be included in when there's distributions at food banks or with school lunches and diaper distributions, at libraries, curbside pickups, and health centers, really anywhere in a low responding neighborhood where people are coming out. Collateral like these tote bags available through the Count Me Coalition can be included too. And the county is planning on distributing learning activity books that you see stacked here on the right and doing a book giveaway with census bookmarks and stickers. Next. So this postcard, the two images on the top and the insert, which is the image on the bottom, have been designed for targeted mailings, and they're available for anyone to use. Next. The social media post here is an example, and really continuing to incorporate census messages into other official communications definitely can't hurt. The targeting social media ads that are underway through our communications contractors are really pinpointing those low response areas. And next. And finally, at least one jurisdiction has hosted a raffle for residents when they complete the census, and they do it on social media. They post their experience completing a questionnaire, and then they get entered into a raffle for a gift card. And providing trusted messengers with these types of incentives might be helpful. Next. So any in-person strategies that are at all possible right now will definitely have to take into effect social distancing and hygiene issues. In addition to these safety concerns, the in-person strategies need to consider that census takers are going to be out in the field starting August 11th, like I mentioned, and the Census Bureau wants to make sure there's no confusion between what the census takers are doing and what the outreach people are doing. So given all of that, some of the in-person strategies that have been planned for this period include the questionnaire assistance centers or kiosks, which is the image on the left, maybe smaller scale community events where people are distanced, maybe even press events could possibly be considered, I don't know. And then providing incentives like the previous message raffle and promotional items like these masks shown here. Next. While the viability of in-person strategies obviously are dependent on what's going on with the coronavirus, there has been some activity like people getting to-go food at restaurants, going to laundromats, maybe community center activities and parks. This situation presents some opportunities to reach people that have been missed through digital strategies or anybody who prefers a face-to-face interaction. And obviously those are hard with the pandemic. Next. So these strategies that I just mentioned were shared in the plan that was submitted to the state back in May. And now that we're nearing the beginning of the non-response follow-up period and we have the current circumstances of the pandemic, it's a good time to kind of revisit and refine these plans. What is really feasible and practical? What are our ideas for moving forward? Maybe you already have evolved your plans and you would like to share things that might be helpful to others. So with these thoughts and questions in mind, I turn it back over to the chair to facilitate.
Perfect. I'm sorry, Darlene, I got a little bit caught up. Do we move on to the next item or do we open it up? That sounds like item number 9, to open it up to the region and the outreach efforts.
Well, I was specifically thinking we would talk about the non-response follow-up plan, and maybe that, we'll talk about that now and then they'll have less to talk about on the next thing.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't skipping Michelle. Okay, well, thank you for that presentation. First, I'll open it up to our members for comments or questions. Seeing none, Can I open it up for the public? Is there any comment from the public?
Hi, Angelica. This is Roberto.
Hi, Roberto.
I just had a quick comment for the non-response follow-up. So as Darlan indicated, this will happen or start August 11th. I also want to share with you that part of the previous mobile response will align with this non-response follow-up. And as Darlan was mentioning, we can potentially keep some aspects of the plan. For example, I can tell you that for us, for the U.S. Census Bureau, we will have additional staff that will be in the field, and we will be potentially at places that are considered to be essential, such as grocery stores. We will also be at, for example, laundromats and places of that nature, pharmacies, where people potentially will be coming in and out. So while we may not have a traditional mobile questionnaire assistance, we will definitely have presence in those areas. So if cities, partners like you are interested in potentially hosting some sort of outside activity, field activity, please keep us in mind. We're happy to be there when we can, when available, starting August 11th.
Thank you, Roberto. We also have Blanca Romero wishing to speak. Blanca, are you with us?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is kind of in regards to the non-response follow-up plan, but it's also in regards to the last item. And it goes back to the SWORD reporting. It was my understanding, and I will have to double check, that the SWORD reporting required that the outreach activities be listed according to the address that they were taking place, in order to know what census tracts needed further outreach activities if they were low. That was my initial understanding, of course, a year ago when we were first coming up with the talking about SWORD. And I asked this because Naleo Educational Fund, for example, we've also been reporting to the state, and we have been reporting the address of those locations where the outreach is taking place. So I think for non-response follow-up plans, I think it is important to say where the locations where those outreach activities will be happening, to have an accurate image of where the activities are happening rather than the offices of someone, of a partner, for example. And that is my only comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Blanca. Do we have any other comments? Okay, moving right along to item number 8, we have Michelle Silverthorne with the Count Me 2020 Coalition. Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, good morning. And it's like new technology again. It's the same technology, but making sure it's all working right. So I'm good. You can hear me and see me.
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. So I should have slides coming up. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all so much for allowing a couple minutes just to provide an update on the Count Me 2020 work. As I was listening to the other slides, I'm just, and some of the explanation that Darlan was giving, I'm just realizing how entrenched I still am in this, and I feel like the slides might be a little light. We've been doing so much, and I was just like, I'll just give a brief update on what's been happening now. So if there's any follow-up, any questions on what more we've been doing, please let me know. Gosh, it's like so many impressions, so many activities, and I know that that's not reflected in what I am going to present now. So please follow up and ask if you have additional questions or thoughts on what's been going on the ground for Count Me 2020. What you see right now on this slide is a current flyer that we're using. The biggest takeaway from this slide is that QR code. So we've been using this QR code from the beginning, but it's come into play even more with COVID, not being able to host MQAs through the U.S. Census Bureau, the QAKs, QACs. This is another way for anyone to take action right on the spot without being able to provide technology or that sort of thing. The QR code goes directly to the my2020census.gov page. And then we also get to see the back-end data of that too and how that's being used. So it's kind of a win-win because we don't always know maybe what's happening, but this provides anyone who wants to take the census a QR code to use. So we've had a couple different places where there's been some light tabling, I'll say, or some active or opportunity for people to engage face-to-face, physically distancing, but this is an opportunity to say, hey, you can take this right now, because that's what we're hearing is that people want to take it right now once they see a bag or once they're handed a shirt or that sort of thing. And so using a mobile device, they can scan the code and go directly to the my2020census.gov page. I'll mention later on too, but we do have these in stickers and happy to share those with anyone to use them in any sort of distribution. So I think that's all I have for this slide. So next slide. A lot of this has been mentioned, but just a succinct page on some of the links and messaging that we're using. So everyone counts, take the census. That's what's most important now. A little subline to that is, to avoid a knock on your door, complete the census by August 11th. There are links here in the slides, which I believe will be shared out, just to have a go-to for those questions that we might have. What's that timeline again? What does that mean for census takers in the neighborhood? Understanding the NERFU plan for the U.S. Census Bureau, and then if individuals have questions about responding without ID. So again, some of this has been covered, but just to one slide to get all of that information you might need. So next slide. Briefly, go ahead to the next slide. Yeah, so briefly, Connie had mentioned the County 2020 week of action that we hosted last week. Again, being so entrenched, sometimes I forget that I need to share this information out. So last week we did have the week of action. I thought it went really, really well. We were a little disappointed to see the numbers not increase to that 68% for San Diego, but we're still working hard. We had a beautifully designed social media campaign, which is still relevant and can be repurposed, and you can access that from the countme2020.org page. I encourage everyone to continue to use those pieces. As I said, they can be repurposed and reused, and we'll be using them through the end of our work. Briefly, we did have 59 posts over the 5 days. The average reach was between 200 to 500. The highest performing post we had was 5,700 impressions with 257 shares. That post was a Take the Census Now post. It had general information on phone, email, and online. So I encourage that one to be used again if you go to our many of our social and share that from there. There were 5 posts that had over 1,200 impressions, and that was an organic reach. And so, as I mentioned, our self-response rates didn't increase as much as we'd liked, but we did see a 0.3 increase in San Diego and a 0.5% in Imperial. And then through email, we had about 2,500 impressions. So we're really pushing hard still to get to that 68%. It feels like a struggle, but I know that we'll get to those 2010 numbers. A couple other things about last week. We did have paid media over social and throughout the UT. So maybe some of you saw that. It was both in the English and Spanish online versions of the UT, and that was through Nuffer Smith Tucker. So that was Sandag's PR firm. We also had, I think, a pretty good week on earned media. COVID and a lot of other things have taken the press, and we haven't had as much outreach and with general census information as we'd like, but we did have coverage of the National City Caravan, the UPAC food distribution. I believe this was the name of it, but I heard Margarita say pizza makes census in Chula Vista. So we had some really great coverage. We had the UT article that Connie mentioned, the UT with Luis Cruz, KPBS, which was super to finally get back on in front of that audience, KUSI, Fox, CBS, ABC, Televisa, KYMA, and Radio Bilingüe, and Imperial. So we had pretty good coverage over last week's week of action. So we hope that energy carries through in getting us to 68%, and then just through the end of October. So what's happening next? Darlene did mention the NRFU plans and what's happening, and this is briefly what we're looking at as well. So looking at priority census tracts and the strategy that's happening there in those tracts, and seeing how to increase that, or just look at what's happening and how to either coordinate or collaborate or do other things in those census tracts. So what we're looking at for July and August, I mentioned the QR codes and safe tabling. So in some instances, people are interacting with public face-to-face, but physically distancing safely, face masks. A lot of food distributions happening, and so it's easy to slip in flyers or use any of the tote bags. Car caravans have been mentioned, door drops, and this has happened in Imperial a lot too. Prior to the caravans, they're doing door drops with a little bit of swag and a map of where the caravan is going, just to encourage people to come out and see what's going on. We have yard signs and banners. We do have the yard signs now in English and Spanish. We have, through paid media, a new group of influencers that will be doing social media campaigns, and if they're radio personalities, there'll be information going out on radio as well. Our digital and social will also be strong. There will continue to be paid digital ads, and then our social media, as I mentioned, we'll be repurposing that and continuing to push hard there. And earned media, where appropriate, will happen as well. For September and October, moving into that non-response follow-up period, aligning get out the vote with get out the count, and then again, depending on what happens with COVID and restrictions and that sort of thing, strategies might change or they might not. So we can go on to the next slide. This is a spreadsheet, it's a Google sheet that's available for anyone to take a look at. These are the priority census tracts, that top text links to this Google sheet. Those in orange are 23 census tracts that the state has indicated are priority for us to focus on. The others are tracts that we know that are important due to HTC and current self-response rates. So this is the list that we're looking at. Darlene also referenced these priority census tracts. And then Roberto had mentioned that they're looking at the lowest 20% of the census tracts, and I'll be making an indication on this sheet of what those are too, just so we have an idea of who all is working in those census tracts. You can also see that there's a list of the CBOs and little X's, and those are the tracts that they are working in. So again, this sheet is available for anyone to take a look at, and I'll also be adding some additional data related to what Darlene mentioned earlier today, to the spreadsheet she sent me earlier this morning. And there was something else I was going to be adding to that too. I think the number of households, and there was another piece that people would like to see as well. So again, that's available for everyone to take a look at and know where those focus priority tracks, or the priority census tracks are that we're focusing on. The next slide. I've seen, who have I seen? Carrie and Cecilia, and I've seen a couple individuals from the city as well, Matt and one of his counterparts as well, come by and pick materials up. So we've had a lot of things go out. We had 20,000 tote bags that went out. I have just a couple hundred left. We have the stickers with the QR code, as I mentioned, the Spanish English yard signs. We still have retractable banners, so those are banners that stand on their own. I have some 3x8 banners in Spanish. There's a few face masks left, and then some larger t-shirts. So I will be at United Way on Friday at 10. So between 10 and 11, you can come by and pick up any of these materials. If you are coming, you can send me a text to let me know. It's on the south side of the building. There's some double doors. And just please physical distance and remain outside if other people are inside the room. We do have pens, bookmarks, and other flyers that will be coming. Just thinking of other ways that we can align with what might be happening with libraries and somewhat of their opening. I know they have their own strategy too. And just the other programs that United Way has, like the Readers in the Heights, so being able to put pens and bookmarks into those bags that are going out, and just other strategies and thoughts on that. And the last slide. So there's my contact information if you all need anything. The next strategic planning meeting is on July 22nd at 10:30. And our quarterly meeting is July 28th at 12. These are always open to anyone to join. And we've continued to meet. We started a virtual town hall meetings on the second Wednesdays at 2, just as another way to keep us all engaged. Again, everyone's available to join those. They are on Facebook Live. And I would just encourage everyone, anywhere, just if there's other newsletters or other platforms that you might have, social or web briefings, just to, wherever possible, just add in that little message, take the census now by online, phone, or by mail. So thank you guys again. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Michelle. I do have a question. Where can people access a spreadsheet with the priority tracks and what CBOs are working on those tracks?
Yes. So right now it's just a link that I've been sharing out. The link is live on this webpage, but I can make sure that Darlene has the full link.
Thank you. And with that, I'll open it to any members for questions and comments. Please turn on your camera if you wish to ask Michelle a question. Okay, moving on to public comment. Do we have any members of the public that wish to make a comment? Please turn on your, please raise your hand. Dahlia, yes. You are muted.
Oh, okay, hi. So I just wanted to, during my presentation, I did not mention one more person that I wanted to give a special shout out to, and that's Christina Griffin Jones from Engage San Diego. She has been such a great partner along the way, and I wanted to let her know that from BayPAC San Diego, we really appreciate the time and that she's taken to walk with us on this journey, trying to do the outreach for Census 2020.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Do we have any more comments or questions for Michelle on this item? I don't see any. Thank you, Michelle, for that update. And moving right along to item number 9, we have regional representative updates. So we can start, and Darlene, you might have to help me out with this if we're going around the virtual table. How would you like me to do this? Should I just call on each of the regions?
That's a great idea. I love that.
Okay. Or we're doing it by regions, not cities, right? Okay.
Yes, correct. Regions.
Perfect. Okay, if I may call on our East County representative. You can turn on your screen or your video. Okay,
Chair, that's usually Lynn, correct? I don't see him in our meeting.
Okay. And we have had great updates from Darlene, from Michelle, from the census, both the state and federal, giving updates on what the region is doing. So if we don't get it this time, we can get an update certainly at the next meeting. Do we have a representative from the North County?
North County Coastal maybe start with, because there's 2 North counties.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
North County Coastal. Good morning.
Good morning.
So we are so, as Dahlia had said, so appreciative of Michelle Silverthorne and the County 2020 Coalition, and just the assistance they've given us in providing collateral and great outreach ideas, and very supportive of our efforts. And also, again, supportive of and appreciative of the North County kind of coalition that's formed with partnerships with, at least for us, with Oceanside and Vista. Very much appreciate working together, trying to shore each other up, share ideas, share collateral, etc. So our biggest efforts right now are focused on food distribution sites, literacy and learning sites. We're starting to take a bigger, kind of get a bigger presence with our farm worker housing and migrant worker programs. And we're going to initiate outreach in a more concentrated effect in the coming weeks. We're also very grateful that Roberto gave us the definitive dates for the homeless count that's coming at the end of September. We have a lot of ideas, and we'll probably use the remainder of our grant funding to try to really get an effective count of our homeless and support of Roberto's efforts. And overall, we're just, despite the difficulties, we're very grateful for the partnerships and just the support that everybody's given us. So thanks for being a great team.
Thank you, Carrie. Now, if we can hear from North County Inland. Do we have anybody? Okay, South.
Yeah, Salazar, but maybe not.
Dulce is on the call.
I'm sorry?
I see Dulce on the call.
Oh, Dulce, are you on the call? And if you'd like us to come back to you, Dulce, we could certainly do that. Or if you're having technical difficulties, maybe you could message us. Okay, so I'll take the South County, and we'll give Dulce an opportunity to jump on. So as far as the South County is concerned, there has been a lot of media. I have seen National City do, the mayor particularly has been doing some stories. As they mentioned, they did the caravan. They've been doing some food distribution stuff. I don't have all the details. I have not coordinated with them. And I apologize, I have to say the same thing for Imperial Beach. But as far as Chula Vista is concerned, we have been trying to get as creative as possible. We've also been distributing at the food sites with the tote bags that have the QR code already in them. We did have, as Michelle mentioned, the pizza event. So we tried to be as creative as possible. We had a drive-through event at one of our rec centers outside. We kind of tried to mimic the food distribution that's already taken place. So we had people come on and stay in their cars. We gave them technical assistance, translation services they needed. We were in full gear with face guards, the mask. Everybody, the first 50 cars received a full pizza, and then everybody was entered into a raffle. We raffled 5 bicycles and 5 gift cards. And although I would have liked to have seen more people, we had about 50 people. Every media news was there. So we got a lot of good coverage. The hope is that with those stories, we maybe build on some momentum. And as somebody mentioned earlier, doing the Week of Action 2.0, then maybe we can do that again. I was nervous at first, but now I'm very confident that we can do this while still practicing our social distancing. So that worked out really well. We did a mail out to all of the census tracts in the West Side, and that was quite a huge endeavor. It was over 15,000 mailers. I wish, as Michelle said, our percentage points would have gone up a little bit, but I'm hoping that with everything that the whole region is doing, that'll build momentum and we'll get some excitement going. A lot of the work that we've been doing, and I'm sure I could speak for all of you, is centered around COVID-19 and the response that the cities have to provide. So I've done a lot of interviews on COVID-related services that the cities provided, and what I try to do at the end of it is do a little spin on the story and remind people that the only way that we're able to provide these services, such as rental assistance and food services, is all related, and it ties back to the census. And without the census data, these services don't come to the city. So some news sources bite and will run a story, and others don't, but that's okay. I still find a way to plug the census. So that's kind of the creative ways that we've been trying to get out there, aside from the typical, the social media, the Facebook posts, things like that. So I think that's it for the South. And I think I saw Dulce jump in a couple of minutes ago. Dulce, are you with us now? If you are, the floor is yours. You could just turn on your video again.
Chair, I reached out through message and didn't get a response yet. So
okay.
Could be having technical difficulties.
Maybe. I did see her jump in on the screen. I saw her lovely face and then she popped out again. So we'll give her another opportunity, but we'll move on to the city of San Diego. If we have somebody. Hi, Matt.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Perfect, loud and clear.
Perfect. Cool. So I don't have much to update. I do want to just express some gratitude to Michelle Silverthorne and the Count Me 20 Coalition, who've been doing education and outreach activities on the behalf of the city of San Diego. Our partners have been out on the ground doing caravans, distribution events, visibility events outside of grocery stores and other places to get the word out. And so we're happy with the work that they've been doing and just want to express gratitude on behalf of the city of San Diego for that work. I have one update, and I know that city staff have been working together with the Census Bureau to get them access across the street from the census office at 13th and F in downtown to allow for training and dispatch opportunities for the enumerators as they're getting trained up in other census staff. So I think they have access to the law. Not that negotiations are going through, but maybe someone from the Bureau can report out on that. But I know that we're working with them to make sure that they have access to that outdoor space so they can conduct their activities in a socially distant way. And that's it for my update.
Thank you, Matt. Do we have somebody from the County of San Diego?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Denise.
Hi everyone. So I'm going to give some updates even further out since March was a pretty active month for us. So we began March by distributing census flyers and posters to all County of San Diego work sites. We launched a census page on the county website. We deployed census banners in county building lobbies with large customer foot traffic, including in our family resource centers. We displayed external banners or signage on several county properties in hard to count areas. And then on March 12th, Chairman Greg Hawks and Attorney General Becerra launched the County Library Census QAC program at the Bonita Library. There were census dedicated stations set up in all 33 of our county libraries. They were only available for a limited time, obviously due to the public health crisis. So the libraries are currently closed. And the kiosk won't be made available for public use until it's determined to be safe. Later in the month, the county's Aging and Independent Services delivered census-related literature to over 2,500 seniors to receive home-delivered meals. In the months following the shelter-in-place as a result of the COVID pandemic, the county's outreach activities also included the county's Aging and Independent Services, including census-related information in their April, May, June, July newsletters, which are sent by mail and electronically to over 6,000 seniors. And then I'm going to turn it over to Missy Solis for the county library updates.
Thank you, Denise.
Oh.
Hi, can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes.
Hi, so I'm Missy Solis with the County Library. I'm just going to share a quick update on what we've been up to. Really great to hear about what's happening throughout the region. So our county library staff created virtual storytime events that include messaging about the census. You can view those on our website at sdcl.org. They've been viewed online over 3,000 times. The county library created summer learning activity books that include messaging about the census. They'll be provided in English, Spanish, Farsi, and Arabic. In July and August, over 14,000 of these activity books will be delivered to school meal sites and hard-to-count communities and distributed to homebound seniors through the county's Great Plates meal delivery program. In addition to that, about 2,500 kids reading books in 12 languages will also be distributed and will include those census stickers and bookmarks. An additional thing we've done from June 22nd to August 31st the county library has a summer learning challenge going on our website. We have a Census 2020 challenge, a part of that program, and it's available at sdcl.org/summer. So that's what we've been up to. Lots and lots of work being done by my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. Have we heard back from Dulce? If not, we'll move on. Okay. So
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect. So I was having technical issues. I was able to get on the camera for a little bit, and then I don't know what happened. But so yes, we've been pretty busy trying to stay active and just trying to get the word out. We have been going to the schools for the food distribution sites and handing out information and some of the stuff that we got, like the t-shirts, the sunglasses, and all that stuff. On Saturday, like Roberto mentioned, we had a car caravan. It was fun. It was very successful. We had, I want to say, about 20 cars. So for our first one, I think it went pretty well, and we are planning on having more. So thank you to everyone that came out and participated and supported us with that. We've been, with social media, just trying to post information on there, continue to give stores items like the bags to hand out, to the families. And then we just ordered some masks as well that we'll be handing out, and just posting yard signs and just banners at the schools. Our school district has been very supportive. So yeah, that's what we've been doing. And we'll continue to do that. So that's it.
Great.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Dulce, for all the work that everybody's doing. Do we have any comments from the public on this item? If you could raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we'll move over on to our next item. Item number 10 is complete count on reports. And this is an opportunity for advisory members of the working group and stakeholders to provide updates on recent or upcoming efforts. If we have anybody from these groups, if you could raise your hand, that would be great, or turn on your cameras. Okay, I don't see anybody. So we'll
I
move
don't
on.
know. Angelica, I was kind of trying to communicate with you through the chat,
sorry.
because I didn't give you a good list, but I know that like Andrew Sharp is on the line from K through 12, that group.
Okay.
I don't know if he wants to share.
Okay, what we could do, Darlene, since I don't have that list, if you could do me the favor of just maybe call on the people that you do see present and just give them the opportunity if they do want to speak. If you could do that for me, I would really appreciate that.
I'm happy to help. So, Andrew, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and put your camera on if you would like to speak, and if you don't have anything, that's fine too. I'll keep looking for the next person on the list. Hold on.
Or if you know that you belong in that group, please make us aware of that.
And Megan Thomas from Philanthropy, I know you spoke during the public comment at the beginning of the meeting, but if you have anything else, please. Great,
Hi.
good to see you.
Yep, hi Angelica, hi everyone. Yeah, sorry, I was so eager. I didn't even see we had an agenda item. Yeah, so we have extended the time period for the philanthropic grants. The only other thing I wanted to mention, because there's been so much discussion about adaptation, the extended time period, the uncertainty of everything, is that I would look forward to and appreciate hearing from anybody about where we might have gaps. I know the state has really stepped up in a lot of ways to provide funding, but I continue to talk with our colleagues in the philanthropic community statewide, and there is attention on San Diego, as well as Imperial County, all of Region 10, understanding where our challenges are. So I would welcome any input or communication from folks where they're seeing a need to supplement our ability to do effective outreach to see what we can do philanthropically.
Okay.
I noticed that Edmund Perkins is on the call. If you want to raise your hand and maybe share something from kind of the elected officials' perspective, please raise your hand and we can unmute you.
I'm unmuted. Hey, good morning, everyone. Edmund Perkins, representative from Assemblymember Weber's office. Personally, or not personally, but from our office perspective, Assemblymember Weber is very concerned, and we have we are going to host, planned rather, a Zoom meeting. I believe it's going to be on July 30th at Town Hall, just around the census. I believe Lee Hernandez has partnered with Ms. Connie and also Roberto, as well as a few others, I believe Layla Aziz with Pillars of the Community, just to bring a focus back on the census pertaining to our district and just to do our part. So we also have gotten reports from, again, like Layla Aziz and others about different caravans, different outreach methods like phone banking to our constituency and to the hard to count areas to try to gain involvement with filling out the census there. So that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned. I will follow back up with you all. I know Darlene's on the line as well. And we will maybe invite you as well. I see you, Michelle, maybe invite you all to participate if you have the time to participate on the Zoom call or town hall that we're having on the 30th of July. I know Lee's heading it, so I'm not familiar with all the details, but I'll make sure that he follows back up with you all, because I think it would be great to have different perspectives and different outreaches that has been done to share on this town hall. So we'll follow up with that information.
Perfect. Thank you, Edmund.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know Maria from Susan Davis's office, maybe she has something to share from the federal perspective. And then Tiffany Harrison, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to share from the city and from your district.
Darlene, do you want them to raise their hands or do you want me to just unmute them?
I think they can raise their hands because I'm kind of putting pressure on them, so I don't want to really throw them under the bus.
I think that's a good idea, Darlene. If they do want to speak, they could raise their hands and then we could call on them. We'll give people a minute or so to do that.
And anyone that I missed, please, 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 just raise your hand, or if you're one of the people who usually sits at the table, please just turn on your camera.
Okay. I think we might be good. Okay, I don't see any hands, Darlene, unless I missed it.
No, you're correct, Chair. I don't see any either.
Okay, perfect. Well, that was item number 10. Moving on to item number 11. First of all, congratulations. We are right on time. You guys are amazing. Item 11 is a discussion on our upcoming meetings. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 19th, 9:30. I believe will be virtual. I don't see anything changing. And that is it for me. On that, I think we can, oh, sorry.
The reason why this is an agenda item is so that folks can raise their hands or come on camera or say, please talk about this next time. Of course, if you don't have that in your head right this minute to share, you can always send them to me, but that's just give us maybe a second to see if anybody has anything they want to request to be on the agenda for next time, please.
Thank you, Darlene. I did not read that. Yes, please raise your hand, turn on your camera, or send us a comment if there is something that you would like to be to see included in the next agenda item.
Chair Alan Kaplan has his hand raised.
Yes, Alan.
Hi, Alan. You are self-muted, so go ahead and hit your unmute button.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I know I'm talking more than once this time around, but I would love to hear a report back on some of the communications work being done by both the state and locally funded partners or collaborators. So like NST working with Sandag, ARC, and Skatina Daniels, who've been doing some of the media work, and I would like to be able to hear from them, like what kind of impact they're having, as well as sort of our outreach, because their air war is intimately tied with our on the ground game. So I think it's important for all of us to kind of get a perspective of exactly how much reach we're getting.
Okay, great. So I hear you want to update on the impact of the media efforts that have been going on, local and state, it sounds like.
Sounds right.
Thank you, Ellen. Any other comments? Okay. Darlene, I think we are free to adjourn at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Angelica. I don't see anything. I don't know, Blake or Kendall, do you see any other hands raised?
No, there are no other hands raised at this time.
Well, thank you. Congratulations to everybody on the team for all of their work and for getting through this first virtual working group meeting. I'm very proud of all of us. Thank you, Darlene, for your support, and for Sandag staff for allowing me to get through this. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.